Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, presented by Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. As per usual, we appreciate you guys hanging out here on this Monday. If you're watching live on our FTN YouTube page, smash that like button. You have any comments, any questions, you can leave them there. If you're watching on Game Plus Network, we do appreciate you. Always a great lineup over at Game Plus Network. We will be here throughout the week for you guys. Tino Rodriguez is going to drop by in a little bit. We're going to hit on the big four here today on Mean Streets. We're going to touch on the NFL. Last week, we basically ran through all the positions of the unrestricted free agents, kind of guessed where they could go, if there was any dynasty buys or sells, maybe get ahead of the game. We're going to look at tight ends a little bit later on in the show. Also, address the running back position. Again, if you did miss that, you can go back and watch it on our FTN YouTube page. Also, of course, this show always live over at ftnbets.com or wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you do listen to your podcast. We're also live on there. And if at any moment, if you're ever watching the replay of this show or listening, if you have any questions, at Chris Meaney, DMs are always open. You can slide on in there, meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. If you have any questions you wanted to send an email, or you can leave the question on the YouTube page. Always circle back before puck drop tip off. Just gotta keep an eye on the videos and see who's smashing that like button, and of course answering those questions if you do indeed have any. So the big four. We're also going to talk about baseball. I know it's like, oh man, I know. I said last week I was confident that these two sides would come to an agreement. I don't know. Like, today's the day. It's clearly it doesn't seem like baseball is going to be ready opening day, but I'm still trying to be optimistic about things. I believe we will see both sides come to an agreement eventually. But I wanted to go over just the first round NFBC high stakes leagues, just the ADP of the top 12 on average, kind of dive into that a little bit. We'll dig deeper as we get closer. Tomorrow might look at round 2, round 3. We'll get some guys on here as well to kind of give their takes, because we have a lot of content over at ftnfantasy.com. And we've already turned the page when it comes to baseball. Last week, we looked at futures, we looked at home run leaders, Cy Young, MVP, and we'll continue to do this stuff as we get closer to the season. Again, I do feel like they're going to come to an agreement, but I think we could still talk baseball here, as we just have the 1 day left in February. We can turn the calendar to March. And I'm happy to do that, because the NHL for me February's been a rocky month, inconsistent. I'm not a fan. I don't like how it's gone. We're still up near 60 units over at ftnbets.com. We appreciate you guys who do have that package, but we need to get on a bit of a roll here. We need to find some consistency. It feels like sides are good and props are not great. Props are good, sides aren't good. Goal scores are great, nothing else is good. So let's try to find some consistency here. Only 3 games on the ice tonight. I think we could see goals in all 3, definitely 2 of the 3. We got the Capitals and the Leafs happening tonight. 20 of the last 25 games that Toronto has played, we've seen at least 6 goals. 10-7 the other night. They were up 7-1. All of a sudden, it was 7-6 in like a couple minutes. Honestly, Detroit scored 5 goals in 5 minutes, or 6 goals in 5 minutes. I kind of feel like we'll see some goals again tonight between the Capitals and the Maple Leafs. We also have the Devils and the Canucks happening tonight. I think we could see some offense. And then Boston and LA in the nightcap should be a really good game. Tino's in here. Of course, we're going to talk through the NFL free agency and the first round of the MLB NFBC ADP, and also some NBA picks. We'll go over the 3 stars. We'll talk a little Harden and Embiid, and also get some picks from him as well. And so we really are hitting up all 4 here. Let's start with the NFL, a little Joe Burrow statistic and a sexy little graphic from our guy George, of course. Tiger King, I don't know, man. I wasn't really a fan of Tiger King. Was anybody a fan of Tiger King? I gave it a shot. I watched the first few episodes. I didn't finish it. I think there's like a second. Is there a second series on Netflix too? I definitely didn't get around to seeing that. But Joe Burrow, phenomenal season in year number 2. Among quarterbacks with the least 100 passing attempts, Joe Burrow was number 1 in completion percentage with 70, adjusting completion percentage 79.6. I mean, we know that nobody was sacked more than Joe Burrow. In fact, I think he took the most hits of all time, including postseason as well. He was on his back quite a bit, and that will be the game plan, I think, for the Bengals in the offseason to kind of revamp that offensive line for Joe Burrow and company. But he was phenomenal year number 2. We know that he's done a lot of great things already. You know, of course, he fell short in the Super Bowl, but I mean, if he found a way to win that Super Bowl, he would have been the first player of all time to have the national championship, right? And then also a Super Bowl in what was just a couple years to go along with the Heisman. I mean, you got to think that 2 years ago, this team was the worst team in football. Last year, they were they were a 4-win team, and then they went from the bottom to the top in the AFC North, took care of the Steelers and the Ravens easily in both games this season. I think they're here to stay. I know it's really tough to get back, and I think I saw a statistic a couple weeks ago of just a few quarterbacks that lost that first one and never even really got back, and a lot of big names on there as well. But I think this team is loaded. The AFC is clearly loaded with a lot of nice, young, up-and-coming quarterbacks that are only going to improve. But I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are here to stay. And they still have a couple years, right, of the Burrow rookie contract and Chase and Higgins. So they're still they have a lot of money as well. I think about $50 million in cap space maybe to revamp that offensive line. We'll take a break. We're going to continue here with some of these statistics throughout the show for the rest of the way. George has some great stuff. Those statistics, of course, led by FTN Daily. We will have another one from Rashad Penny a little bit later on. But we're going to switch gears, talk a little season-long fantasy hockey. Got some picks towards the end of this show, some NBA stuff, and of course some MLB stuff. Lots to get to here on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. Things continue here on Game Plus Network. Welcome back into Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network. Just reading the comments. Mr. Roper, ever since I got the haircut, we've been taking it on the chin. Got to let that grow out again. I mean, if it was up to me, I would just let her buck. I mean, I've done that before in the past, but got to try to look a little presentable here on TV, Game Plus Network. I want the crew. Sean McCormick is hanging out with us here. Anthony Ciccone, of course, Chad Midgley. I want the guys to take a shot at me again, right? So I got to try to look a little presentable. I trimmed up here a little bit, so we're going to turn the page on February here tonight. I can't wait to get into March, but I think we're okay here. I got some 3 stars from last night. We'll get into those that plays season-long stuff. We'll get into some advice here. I didn't even see this until right now. The Labatt ice for Kyle Connor. It's one thing that we did get right yesterday for an anytime goal. We did get some things right yesterday. I mean, we had a parlay with Dallas and Winnipeg and Pittsburgh. We had those 3 to win straight up. We had all 3 to win in 60. We did get some things right. I feel like where I went wrong yesterday in the bet tracker was just the anytime goal scorers, but we were rooting for Connor. We have a Slack chat, of course, at work with Tino and George, and even Stefano was hanging out with us there a little bit yesterday. We were all in the Jets, and I think George called it. The Jets were down 2-1. There was some talk about hedging. Said, no, stick with it. Stick with the process. They're playing really good. And George said, we're going to get the game-winning goal from Kyle Connor. That's exactly what happened yesterday. He leads the NHL in games with goals. I know Matthews leads the league in goals, but Connor has 29 games with a goal this season. A lot of single-goal games from Kyle Connor as he's now crossed the 30-goal mark. He's having a heck of a season. David Perron was great yesterday as well against the Blackhawks. He had 2 goals, 8 shots. Now, half of those shots came in the final minute and a half. St. Louis had a power play. They were really trying to get him the puck to get the hat trick there. It didn't work out for him. He's had a bit of a down season, I'll be honest. David Perron, a bit of a season-long bust, but, the Blues are starting to find their rhythm here. We're just near the trade deadline. Maybe they add. I like the direction of St. Louis, not far removed from winning a Stanley Cup. They have a lot of nice pieces there. Jordan Binnington, a shout-out to him, who had the hat trick last night and who's played really good in back-to-back games now. I know he was brutal for a good 6-week stretch. I think St. Louis will go back and forth now with him and Husso, and then they'll decide which goalie. I still think, Husso's been really good this year, but I think Binnington gets the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he was really good he was strong. He had some moments, some weak moments when the Blues won the Cup, but he was really, really good, especially against the Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup Finals. You see Ilya Sorokin in there, who I wanted to give a bit of love to, who did have the 34 save shutout last night in Anaheim. He's been really good. Varlamov has not been good. The Islanders look pretty much done. But for David Perron and the St. Louis Blues, there's still a couple players who are hanging around the waiver wire that could potentially help you out. Robert Thomas is one, centering the two Russians in Tarasenko and Buchnevich, and Perron on that top line with Ryan O'Reilly. They still have some chemistry together too. And then they got Jordan Kyrou on that third line with Barbashev. I mean, the Blues have a lot to offer, but if you're looking for something in goal that can maybe help you out, Binnington is available. He was dropped in a lot of leagues over the last month or so, but I think they're going to go back and forth between the two, and I do believe they'll want to lean with the veteran if he can find his game, and maybe they decide to go with him in the final month of the season or so. McCormick does check in with a Leafs question here. What do you think the Leafs should do in net Campbell-Mrazek tandem? It does sound like Mrazek is going to be the guy here tonight to make the start against Washington. Oh, man, it's not good, McCormick. I can tell you that. It is not good. I know the Leafs score. I gave that statistic at the start. 20 of the last 25 games they played, we've seen at least 6 goals. They have their bottom in dead last in the NHL since the calendar turn to 2022 in 5-5 save percentage. That's not a great statistic. I know Jack Campbell, if you look back at, his years in LA and, he's never really been able to find his footing. Last year was great. The start of the season was really good. But overall, his 5-5 save percentage, high danger save percentage, not fantastic. And that's where the Leafs are really struggling, giving up some quality chances, and they're not getting those saves. I think they go back and forth. It's got to be Campbell, right? Mrazek is not the answer. I don't think he's the answer. That's the reason I never liked the Hurricanes over the past couple of years. I didn't believe in Mrazek and what they had between the pipes. Anderson looks good. They look like a different team in Carolina this year. I think it needs to be Campbell. I think it's going to be Campbell, but he needs to, the confidence is not there right now for Jack Campbell. I see it. I mean, I don't watch every Leafs game, but I see a guy who's shook. I can't remember the last time I've seen a goalie pulled in the third period with the lead. That's what happened over the weekend against Detroit. Toronto had the lead. They were up in that game in the third period, and Campbell's couple goals let in, and now he's sitting here not starting into tonight. So there's probably some frustrations in his head a little bit. I think he'll turn it around, but the Leafs also need to kind of figure it defensively. That's kind of my two takes my 2 cents on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So for those playing fantasy hockey, it is week 19. Let's bring up the board. These are the teams that play 4 games this week. So there's a lot of different options. Week 23 is the beginning of fantasy hockey playoff time. So we're running out of time. Make the push here to the playoffs. If you're comfortably in a playoff spot, you need to be looking ahead into week 23, 24, the quarters, the semis. You want to have yourself set up with 4-game weeks. You don't want to drop really good players who are struggling right now. And you have if you're in a really good spot, you can afford to hold on to some of these players who potentially are going through a little bit of a lull right now, right? You don't want to just drop them for your league mates. But if you're on the outside looking in, you need to, now is the time to get going here. And to do that, I think, is with 4-game streams. So Jake DeBrusk, pretty good on the weekend. We went back to him on Saturday for an anytime goal and shot prop. We didn't get it, but he was plus 150 for 3 shots, which we got on Friday, and he did score on Friday. He's up on that top line right now with Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. Craig Smith was there for a little bit. He's dropped down to the third line. They're rolling out Hull and Pasternak on that second line. Jake DeBrusk could help you out. They got the 4 games this week, starting this evening against the Kings. He's been shooting the puck. He's been feeling it. I know he requested a trade about a month ago. We'll see maybe the Bruins are showcasing him. It's possible, right? Put him up with the boys. He gets a couple goals playing with Bergeron and Marchand, and then maybe, that's the time to kind of trade him as opposed to, the guy's unhappy. He's not really doing anything. He's only playing 13, 14 minutes a night on the third line. So now he's getting an opportunity here. I actually like Jake DeBrusk. He's just never really had an opportunity inside the top 6. The Bruins have been loaded for the past couple of years. I like what I've seen from him. I think he can help you out. Carolina, most guys that you that you want are owned, right? Martin H is having a bit of a down season. Jacob Slavin could be available. Tony DeAngelo is out for the next month or so. In deeper leagues with blocks and hits, you can roll out Brady Shea. But Nino Niederreiter playing on that third line with Jordan Staal, I've just noticed a bit of a bump in ice time. He's been productive lately. I think in a deeper league, a 12-team league, probably not. 14-team leagues, maybe you can consider him. These next three guys on the list should absolutely be owned. Adrian Kempe's He's been great all year. The past week has been really good. He had a 2-goal game the other day. He's playing on that top line with Kopitar and Iafallo. It's been a really, really strong line for the Los Angeles Kings. I like Adrian Kempe. He could finish the season with 30 goals. I wouldn't be shocked. Matt Boldy has been awesome since the call-up. He's been basically a point-per-game guy. He loves to shoot the puck. We can't find his shot prop anywhere besides Prize Picks, but I will give some love to Prize Picks because we have been all over it, our free pick tracker over at ftndaily.com. He's been right around 2.5 at Prize Picks over the past 3 games, I think, is just finally, Prize Picks has him. And I think over time we will see him, on DraftKings or Bet365, but he has at least 3 shots in 3 straight games. He's hit the score sheet in 3 of his last 4. He had a 4-point night back in mid-February against Detroit. So he's got 8 goals and 18 points and 52 shots here. He's actually getting dropped. I know people are impatient, but the Wild have 4 games this week. I think it's a pretty good opportunity for Boldy. He's shown real good chemistry with Fiala, and I think the Wild are going to add. I just have this feeling that they're going to add, and if it's Claude Giroux, look out. Giroux's going to be on that second line with Boldy and with Fiala, and it's going to be, that would be a really good line. Sharangovich, my guy, he was all over, I think George remembers, he was all over the sleeper breakout portion of the NHL draft kit, and it was a bad pick, I'll be honest. It was a brutal pick. He wasn't great. He was dropped. He's only owned in like 13% of Yahoo leagues. He's got goals in 3 straight now, and 4 of his past 5. He's got points here in 6 straight games, got multi-points in 2 of them. He had a 3-point night against the Blues the other night. He's been shooting. He's getting a lot of ice time. He's playing anywhere from 18 to 20 minutes. He's playing with Jack Hughes, and the duo looks really good. The Devils have 4 games this week, and they have 4 games in the first week of the fantasy hockey playoffs. Tim Stützle, Ottawa's starting to get a little bit healthy. We're going to see Drake Batherson and Josh Norris return soon, but Stützle's on that top line. If there is a send to grab, it's probably him in deeper leagues. It could be Connor Brown. Anthony Cirelli just playing on that second line with Stamkos and Killorn. If you're in a deeper league and you're looking for a little bit more offensively, just 4 games this week, I think Cirelli could be interesting. And then one golden night, I was going to go with Dadonov. He's not doing a whole lot. Pacioretty's hurt. Stone's hurt. Man, Vegas cannot stay healthy. I'm worried about my future when it comes to the Golden Knights. But Riley Smith hasn't been doing a whole lot lately, but he has been shooting the puck. 10 shots in his last 2 games. He still had that misfits line together here as we head into this week, week 19 of the fantasy hockey season. And Riley Smith playing with Carlson and playing with Marcia, so it still is a pretty good line. And from Corsi 4 standpoint, they generate more than they give up, so the quality chances are still there. All right, that's it from a season-long standpoint. Fantasy hockey, there's still some people out there that play. We will have you covered throughout. We'll have a playoff guide available for free in the next couple days over at ftnfantasy.com as well. Enough hockey talk for just now. Towards the end of the show, we'll have some picks, some goal scorers, and some shot props. We're going to bring in Tino. We're going to talk a little NBA, go over last night's action in the NBA, some 3-stars, and take a look at tonight's action as well. Also, a freezing cold take to talk about. That next here on Mean Streets. Welcome back into Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network as we bring in Tino Rodriguez _ on the Twitter machine. Andy Pfeiffer checks in a freezing cold take. What? Duh. And it's not me saying the Ottawa Senators will lose to the Minnesota Wild. It's nothing at all like that. You want to just start off the hop, Tino, with this?
Yeah, it's also not me picking the Toronto Raptors, even though I knew the Toronto Raptors were going to lose by 40. And I said, you know what, I'm going to not fade myself and then take the Toronto Raptors. And then, needless to say, they lost by 1,000 points. So it's not that either. It's LeBron James, Meaney.
Look at this. There. Yeah, so freezing cold takes. This was tweeted last night at 1 in the morning, I think my time. And here it is. This is a tweet from LeBron back in August. Keep talking about my squad, our personal ages, the way he plays. He stays injured. We're past our time in this league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do me one favor, please. And I mean, please, pray emoji. Keep that same narrative energy when it begins. That's all I ask. Hashtag thank you, King emoji. So he's feeling it right now, just a little bit. The Lakers did not look good yesterday. I think LeBron's had a really good season. Like, from a numbers standpoint, is like, I mean, what he's doing at this age, I still view him as one of the better players in the NBA when it comes to playoff time. If I'm drafting players, I'm drafting LeBron, honestly. Like, at the end of the day, I still think he is the man. But this Lakers team looks awful. Tino, looking at the standings here today, they are 9th in the West. They're 27-33. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. On the road, they're 9-18. And they're 3.5 back of the LA Clippers, 2.5 ahead of the Pelicans, who kind of rocked their world last night. So what do you think of this?
Well, and how the NBA set up, though, like you just said, it's perfect when you think about it, because they'll still be in the play-in, right? So you still get playoff LeBron, even though they've been as bad as they are. So I think LeBron still got it. I know there was an anonymous quote out there yesterday about a random NBA executive saying that LeBron can't carry you, but he's still a good player. He's 37. It's like, I mean, all right, like, you know, like, beat the guy while he's down a little bit. I think LeBron can carry the team, but if you see it, and I told you this, how does Russell Westbrook get through a game starting and only have 1 assist? There's a guy who averaged a triple-double, like, nearly, you know, for a 5-year span of his career. The guy had 1 assist yesterday, and then you see how he's playing, and it's just bad. I mean, it's just really, really bad. His turnovers, it's one thing to turn the ball over. It's another thing. I mean, these are errant passes that aren't even close. So I think LeBron has been carrying the Lakers. It's just you can only do so much, right? And now AD's down. So I don't know. He can't play for Russell. I think that's the overwhelming problem. I think Westbrook's the issue right now. And I think the increasing tensions is that they wanted to trade Russell Westbrook, and then they didn't, right? And so that's why they had to have that meeting with Rich Paul and Rob Pelinka, and that whole thing happened. So, you know, you gotta bite your teeth when you talk about the Lakers, but they're still in the playoffs right now, Meaney. So who knows? We'll still get some playoff LeBron action.
George might have to old take Meaney's Westbrook takes. Did I have good things to say about Westbrook at the start of the season? I don't know. I may have liked this fit a little bit, but I remember really getting into it when I started to see them on the floor. And I know you and I got into it. I know there's a couple people at FTN, Joe Metz in particular, not a big Westbrook fan, but we talked about how it just they needed a shooter, right? Like, Westbrook is not a shooter. He's not a good shooter. So I even remember having conversations with you about having him on the second unit as a guy not starting with the Lakers, coming off the bench and maybe being the floor general when LeBron is not on the floor. But I'm looking at LeBron's numbers here. I mean, we could cold take him all we want here. He's averaging 29 points per game. 29 points. Tino, do you know the last time he averaged 29 points? It was with Cleveland in 2009. His first time with Cleveland. 2009, man. He's been fine all his other years. 25, 27, 26, like 29 points. This is LeBron in his first 5 seasons in the NBA. He's shooting 52% from the floor. It's the first time since 2017, 2018. I mean, not only did Westbrook have 1 assist in his last game, he had 1 assist the game before that. He's got 2 assists in his last 2 games. Also, it's not good.
Credit to LeBron, because the first year he was in LA before they won this ship, he kind of, like, you know, bowed out and stood away because of how bad they were. He's taking it. He's taking it on the chin right now. I saw some videos. He's chirping at the fans. I mean, I don't necessarily condone it, but, you know, LeBron's fighting back. So that's good to see there too, because I think he's in a great spot. I think LeBron is in the perfect LeBron situation where he's doing everything he can for LA. He won his ship, but he's already said he wants to play with Ronnie. Yeah. So if they don't turn the ship around, he's done everything he can do, and he keeps that legacy intact. So LeBron's still winning here. That's the takeaway. LeBron's still winning. Do we want to do the?
Yeah, and we could get into Bronny another time, but also like he's gonna make it and probably get drafted because of his name, but he's also not like a top tier player in high school. I mean, I see highlights and he looks good, but according to everything I read, he's not like this amazing prospect that's gonna just be a game changer for a franchise. But at the end of the day, if he does get drafted by a team like the Thunder or the Cavs, you get LeBron too, right? You sell jerseys.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Game changer for the franchise. You also get LeBron James.
They're going to make the playoffs, correct? They're going to make it. And if they play in that play-in, I think they get in. But they need to start getting going because I don't see them beating a Suns team or a Warriors team. If that's the matchup, that's it. They're going to be done pretty early. Let's get into last night. I know you have some 76ers takes as well. These are the 3 stars from yesterday. James Harden, 29 points, 10 boards, 16 assists. Hey, credit to you. I mean, you called the triple-double, right? We were all over the triple-double yesterday. Yes. James Harden, the first 76ers player in 25 years to have like 25, 10, and 5 at half. He also had 5 steals. He was a beast yesterday. Devin Booker's in here, 37 and 7. Just wanted to give a little bit of love to Booker. I know yesterday his assist prop was at 6.5, so we know that Chris Paul is going to miss a little bit of time here. So, there's an uptick across the board from certain players like Bridges and, maybe Crowder. But for Booker, the last few games, right? 7 assists, 5, 12, 8. So, I mean, we already know he's been a beast, got 30 points in back-to-back games, but now he's going to give you a little bit more if you own him in season long and you play DFS. And then I was going to give some love to Joel Embiid. I feel like you kind of chirped me a little bit. He did lead the day in points. A lot of it came from the free throw line. The Knicks had no answer for him. Foul, 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 foul. And then I decided to give a little bit of love to, of course, a Mav. I couldn't give it to Luka because he had 9 turnovers. He didn't have a great day, and he wasn't really distributing the rock all that well. But for Dinwiddie, I just, from a season-long standpoint, I wanted to put a little spin on this because I'm even seeing now he's been picked up as of today over 6%. His ownership has jumped up to 67. He was down to sub 50 or sub 60 before last night's game. He got traded and nothing was really happening with him before the trade, and I wondered really how he would fit in. I don't really love the trade, but back-to-back games now, he's got 5 threes, he's got 44 points, he's got 6 boards, 7 assists, a couple steals. And it looks like he's kind of fitting in there with Dallas. So just maybe double check your season-long leagues to see if he is available. He could maybe potentially help you out. What did you make of the duo in Philly, Harden and Embiid?
So here's the only reason the take rings true is because I told you this was happening how early into the game? Maybe 5 minutes. I said this game is becoming unwatchable. And the biggest takeaway is everyone's like, oh, well, the Knicks had more free throw attempts. Joel Embiid had 27 free throw attempts. He leads the league in free throw attempts by a significant margin. They have 2 of the top 3 guys who shoot free throws in the league. I mean, it's just bad basketball to watch, and I get it. Like, guard him better. Sixers fans, hold yourself, because when the NBA doesn't want to give you these calls, which is why James Harden started sucking his teeth when he was on the Nets and didn't get his calls and the rule change happened, it gets even uglier to watch, is my point. All right, 27 free throws is impossible to watch. The Knicks had 2 players foul out in Mitchell Robinson and Jericho Sims, I believe, guarding Embiid. And look, credit to Embiid. Almost unguardable, right? He's kind of doing the honest thing, head down, long arm, swings his arm, always is going to get a shooting motion, and he's going to get to the free throw line, and his free throws have improved. Whatever. I'm not going to knock the guy entirely. It's just 23 of your 37 are coming from the free throw line. Over 4 from 3-point range. So obviously that James Harden step back isn't hitting him as well. I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea at basketball, man. I just thought it was really just unappealing. And look, I get it. You still win basketball games, and you still gotta find a way to guard him. And I think Embiid is on another level, but he's also playing really aggressive. He had a scary fall. Remember, this is the regular season. That's all I'm going to say. It's a regular season. Let's get to the finish line with these 2 teams. And I just don't think these free throw numbers are going to sustain throughout the length of the season. The NBA is known to do this. Once they get ticky-tacky with calls, you saw it with the Nets-Bucks game. The Bucks fans got very heated because all of a sudden they let the kids play. Just if this is your main source of offense, it's not sustainable. At least in the NBA, it's not sustainable, because once those zebras come in and the refs don't want to call certain things, or they decide to change the rule for James Harden step back and lean in, his kick out on his 3, midseason, all of a sudden it gets ugly. But I do have some picks for us, Meaney. I have some picks. and the Raptors are not on here. So that's a good start. I'm gonna get us going though. So I love the Hornets. They're plus 10 here. I see them 10.5 in most places. The Hornets are 7-1 against the spread against the Milwaukee Bucks in their last 8 games against them. They've beaten the Bucks. Yeah, they've beaten the Bucks twice this season. Now, granted, both of those games were home. They were home and they handled them, within single digits. But in Milwaukee, they only lost by 2. I just think 10.5 points is way too much. And it could be an overreaction. They've lost 4 out of the last 5. You lose to the Detroit Pistons at home on a buzzer beater by Kelly Olynyk. It's hard for anyone to want to bet you on a back-to-back the next day, especially on the road against Milwaukee. I just think the Hornets are a good enough team that, and have played well enough against Milwaukee that I think you just take the 10.5 points and hope they keep it close. I just think it's way too many here. So that's probably my favorite underdog spread play of the day. But then I like these other 2 dogs straight out, but I'll take the Cavs plus 3.5 just because this is another overreaction. Did no Darius Garland. They've been struggling, losers of 3 of the last 5, but they were able to handle Washington at home, barely, but they handled Washington at home. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, this, are a team I've been betting, and, they burned us against the Sixers. The Sixers ended up blowing them out. Good team. I just think this game could be close. The Cavaliers beat them by 17 in Minnesota earlier this season. Garland didn't have that great of a day. Double-double, but 12 and 12. I don't think he was the difference maker. I think the bigs are the difference maker here. Cat's been playing great, but they just might have too much size for him. I think Jared Allen could get on Towns. I think it gives Markkanen and Mobley some time to move around in the paint outside of him. And I think this is a good matchup. If I can get the Cavs at home, people are forgetting about them. 19-9 at home. I'll take the home dog plus the points. And then I'm going to take the Indiana Pacers. This is a team that I think have gotten significantly better since their trade. Still only winners of 2 of the last 5. But they beat Boston at home yesterday. And they didn't just beat them. They handled Boston at home. Won by 21. Halliburton's playing well. Shout out to O'Shea Brissett, Syracuse grad, and an alum himself, holding it down. They're going to head to a road trip here, but the Orlando Magic are terrible, man. They beat the Houston Rockets. Well, who can't beat the Houston Rockets? They've only won 1 game out of their last 5. Granted, the last time these 2 teams played, they played in Indiana, and it was a 1-point game. So if you want to take the 1 or 1.5 with the Pacers, thinking it'll be the same way, again, go ahead. But this is almost even money on the road. I think the Pacers are a significantly better team and a more balanced roster. And I like the Pacers on the road here. So 3 underdog plays for the people at home. And we're going to bounce back. I'm mad that I gave him the Raptors pick. I still haven't gotten over it. I told you guys, too. You're accountable. George, too. And everyone in the chat. If I ever pick the Raptors again, either just blatantly fade me and just chirp me because we're never picking them again. Nor are we picking the team that they're in.
Yeah, if there's a list to put teams on, I feel like they're on the list now, maybe.
Yes.
I think the Coyotes would have been on that list if they found a way to beat Winnipeg last night. Yes. We would have put them on that list. We know that we don't get the Senators right on this list. The Minnesota Wild have kind of killed us a little bit. I'm really glad that you brought up Brissett because I wanted to make him a 3-star yesterday. His line was phenomenal. He had 6 threes, 27.6 boards. He's got 3 double-doubles in his last 6 games. He's had at least 17 points in 1, 2, 3, 4 of those 6 games. Hit at least a 3 and 5. Actually, going back to kind of before the All-Star break, he wasn't great. He was starting to trend up a little bit, but he's got at least 1 3 in 7 of his past 8 games as well. He's hovering around that 50% mark in Yahoo leagues too. He can certainly help you out. I don't want to get too much into Pavelski on that list. Josh, did you notice Pavelski yesterday? He had like 7 or 8 shots on home ice. Kind of sticking with the process. Sometimes you get burned by these guys' shot props, and the very next night they do what we expected them to do. And Pavelski showed up yesterday. All of the stars on that top line showed up except for Jason Robertson. It's usually 2 of the 3 who show up for us. I don't want to get into the whole 76ers thing again, but that duo is, if they could figure it out, they're going to be pretty unstoppable, man, to be honest with you, because Embiid talked about it at the first game, how, of course he's going to say this kind of stuff, but he had so many open shots. He'd never been that open. He never, saw that before. Like, those things are going to happen. Both guys get to the free throw line quite a bit, but Embiid yesterday, 23 for 27 from the line is ludicrous. He did finish with 37 points. He had a Sunday high 4 blocks, but 5 free throws shy of tying the record for a game. And it just felt like he may have tied it or broke it watching that game and just seeing him go to the line, going to the line, going to the line. Well, and I will say this on the way out.
Okay.
for Harden, the first player in NBA history to start 25-10 in his first 2 games with the new team. And I know people are taking shots at Simmons, more threes than Simmons already in his career, but they're different players.
The only team that can beat the Sixers are the Sixers themselves. Doc Rivers has to figure out what's going to happen the second James Harden comes off that court, because Tobias Harris, shout out to Josh Kalachi, live tweeting how many throws, how many field goals Tobias Harris had throughout the game and how he had the same amount as him. That's what I mean. Yeah. So once they come off the court, or either of them get into foul trouble, that's where the real trick comes in with the 76ers.
All right, enough NBA talk for now. We are going to talk a little baseball. We'll take a look at the first round of the NFBC ADP, and I want to give it a little love to Mr. Bo Bichette. Keep her locked. Welcome back in. Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network, hanging out on our FTN YouTube page. We are going to talk a little MLB here. Let's bring up the first round of the NFBC draft. On average, this is over basically just the month of February as drafts really start to heat up. Of course, not going to get into the whole is baseball going to happen in a month and all this stuff. I mean, hopefully it does. You can touch on that if you want, Tino. I know you're more in tune. But up at the top here, again, NFBC, we do have the Great Baseball Invitational led by Justin Mason happening today. Always a great time. And Justin does some great stuff. And that league over the past few years is really kind of it's been awesome. It's been great to watch a little mix of experts who follow the sport closely from a day-to-day standpoint, and also just guys that also follow the sport, boys and girls, just some casual baseball fans in those leagues as well. But for Turner up at the top here, Fernando Tatis, Jose Ramirez, Juan Soto, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero, so a couple J's there back-to-back. There's been a lot of talk, quote-unquote, in the industry when it comes to Vlad, if he should be a first-round pick or not. Of course, you're not going to get a lot of stolen bases. This is a roto league, and I think it is important to get some stolen bases in the first couple rounds. You're going to have to address it, certainly, if you do draft a guy like Vlad with that 6th pick. Garrett Cole, the first pitcher off the board. Shohei, pitcher, utility. You can use them as both here, but you have to make your decision on a Monday. It's like a weekly lock. These leagues are weekly locked, so you got him locked in. Maybe if he can get 2 starts. There's not a lot of weeks where Shohei will give you the 2 starts, with the Angels sometimes going to a 6-man rotation when he is healthy. Bryce Harper, Corbin Burns, Ronald Acuna Jr., and then Kyle Tucker, who I think is interesting, makes the leap here inside the top 12. What do you make of this list? Of course, Turner's always at the top in these roto leagues because he steals a lot of bags. He gets on base and he touches a lot of categories for you. I think if you're playing in a head-to-head league and you don't play roto, you don't play high stakes, I don't think stolen bases are that important. I think it's one category. You can win most of your matchups without having any speed at all. But if you're in a roto league, you're going to really want a balanced roster that's including saves as well. You may have to attack that position in the first 4 or 5 rounds as well, maybe with 1 or 2 closers. But what do you make of this list? Anyone stand out? Do you think anyone shouldn't be here? What do you make?
Yeah, so, I'll let you talk up Bo, because I do think it's interesting where he's placed on this list, making the top 5. You got to say Kyle Tucker, right? I think Kyle Tucker's the one that stands out because we talked up the Stros. We mentioned a lot of the Astros, and you think about the guys on that team. We mentioned a lot of Jordan Alvarez love. Bregman's still there. Altuve's still there. And of all the Astros to pop up to the top there is Tucker. And I know he's a quality bat. It's interesting. It's like one of these things don't belong. You see those names, and then you see a guy like him at the bottom there. It's like, okay, all right, I respect it. I know we got some sharp minds, kind of generating this. But, yeah, I think if there's one guy who stands out that I feel like I have to now go back and kind of do a double take on why he's there, it's definitely him, because I think just from namesake and what the bodies of work have been for all those other guys, aside from injury question marks, you don't have to make too much of a case on anyone there, right? I think any of those names, like I could talk about Juan Soto all day long. The only issue with Juan Soto is his RBI numbers. They're going to continue to go down because no one's going to get on base for the Washington Nationals. But other than that, I mean, how do you not love the Toronto Blue Jays, right? We've talked them up as an 11-1 futures on this show. So if we want to get into Bo, we can. But Vladdy being behind Bo, I know the stolen base thing is it's interesting. I think that's very interesting.
It is. This is what Tucker did last year in 140 games, 567 plate appearances. He had 30 bombs and 14 stolen bases, so that's part of it. He hit 294, so he comes basically touching all categories. And again, with this being a roto league, I think people, certainly like that power speed combo. And if you figure he plays every day this year, and we do get a full season, he's getting over 600 plate appearances, so we can get to that 30 mark again, most likely. Maybe he hits triple digits in terms of runs and RBI, and then if he can get to 20 stolen bases, 20 would be, I think, the ceiling. But if he can give you 15 or so, then he touches all categories. He comes with maybe a 270 average at worst, and he touches a lot of categories for you. But guys going after him that I like, Rafael Devers. Like, call me a homer all you want, but Mike Trout, when this guy's healthy, I still think he's a top 5 player in baseball. Not going to give you a lot of speed. Mookie Betts, Luis Robert. There's a lot of really good players going behind him with a resume, right? But I think you are paying for the maximum ceiling when it comes to Kyle Tucker. So I'm a little bit on the fence. I think personally, I would rather those guys that I just brought up, Robert, Betts, Devers, and Trout, over Kyle Tucker. But you do get a little bit of speed power there. Yeah, so Bo Bichette, we do have this single board for Bo, and you see the note here. The only player with 100 runs, 25 homers, 20 stolen bases, and 100 RBIs while hitting 290 last season. There are other guys here who kind of flirted with those numbers. I mentioned Trey Turner earlier. Trey Turner didn't have the RBIs. If you just look overall, there wasn't a guy who, only 77 RBIs. You got Jose Ramirez there, who had 36 homers, hit triple digits and runs and RBIs, 27 stolen bases, but only hit 266. I think Fernando Tatis Jr. would have gotten there, but he missed a little bit of time. But overall, a phenomenal season from him. But he only hit 282. And then obviously Bo Bichette in there as well. Ozzie Albies only hit 259, but this is a guy who had 20 stolen bases, 30 bombs, 100 plus runs and RBIs. So there were some names that are kind of in and around there. Even Shohei, right? Shohei had 26 stolen bases, but he only hit 257. I just really like this Jays squad, man. I like Bo if he's going to be up at the top of the order, and the guys that are going to hit behind him. He showed me that he could hit for average. He was striking out a lot when he first came up. It looked like he was swinging for the fences, but he can hit for average. Double machine, those doubles eventually turning to home runs as you get a little bit older and more power kind of creeps into your game. We love the ballpark that he plays in, love the division that he plays in, making stops over to Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, and some pretty mediocre pitchers inside that division as well. So I think the sky's the limit, and he's touching all categories for you, man.
Second in the league in hits, right behind Trey Turner. And, you just mentioned Trey Turner's RBI numbers. Important to remember, he's now on the Dodgers for a full season. I think that's why he's excelled to the top of this list. I think those RBI numbers go up just in the situation, right? I just told you about the Washington Nationals and them getting runners on base. He was the leadoff hitter there. He's the leadoff hitter in Los Angeles. But I think his RBIs take a jump up just because of the people that are behind him and in front of him in the bottom of that lineup.
Absolutely. All right, so all those guys, like you said, pretty good targets. Maybe we're a little on the fence when it comes to Kyle Tucker. I still think a pretty good target. Good guys going behind him. Imagine getting a Trout and a Mookie in the second round of Luis Robert. Unbelievable. But I think the target for me, I would love to leave the first round with a guy like Bo Bichette who can touch all categories for you. NFL free agency, just a quick little segment. We touched on running backs and wide receivers. We wanted to touch on tight ends, and we'll probably just kind of recap running backs as well because we have a pretty nice Rashad Penny stat in there. So more Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Don't go anywhere. Switching over to the NFL, we have a Rashad Penny stat as well from our guy, George. Let's bring this up. He is an unrestricted free agent. Leaders in yards after contact per attempt. What? Look at the gap here. I know Penny was only, I guess, kind of featured in the Seattle offense over the last few games of the season. It was Chris Carson and then messing around with just Alex Collins and other guys. But Penny, 4.4. And look at the other guys on this list. I mean, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Tony Pollard, obviously Dearness Johnson. The Cleveland offensive line has a lot to do with that. No disrespect to Dearness, Nick Chubb up at the top there too. Two different, very different backs. But Penny at 4.4. And we touched on this last week, an unrestricted free agent. I'm kind of thinking to myself that he's maybe a sell high candidate. Like, will his value ever be higher than right now? I guess like years past, it was pretty high as a former first round pick. But man, he popped off towards the later part of the season. We don't know where he's going to be. I think if I own him in Dynasty, I'm willing to ship him.
Yeah, absolutely. I told myself a long time ago as a Chris Carson owner, and I don't even know what's going to happen with Chris Carson. So maybe Seattle has to bring him back. But no Rashard Pennies. That's what I told myself. No Rashard Pennies. Because, like, I don't know, the injury history, yeah, and then now you're going to buy him high, and it's like based on what? I think if you do buy him, I'm waiting to see where he goes. I kind of think maybe Seattle would be the best spot for him to come back, knowing that Chris Carson, with Carson dealing with a neck injury, and you saw the other guys behind him, I think that makes the most sense. If you go somewhere else, it's kind of a stay away for me. I don't really have interest in it, despite all that. Like, I get it. It's just like, I think it's very funny how since he's a running back, everyone's like, capitalize on it. Like I think this is a good buy, blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, it's like, I think it's more of a sell high. Like, I'd rather take a shot. I'd rather take a shot on a Gabe Davis on his ridiculous high, right now in the playoffs than a Rashard Penny based on his end of the season. I just don't think it's going to happen again.
Let's go over to tight ends here quickly, but that's the name of the game when it comes to Dynasty, selling high on some of these guys, especially running backs. And you just kind of rotate through running backs, draft. I like to draft them, keep them young and fresh. When they get into year 3 or 4, I like to flip them. So some tight ends here on this list. We don't know where Gronk is going to go. David Njoku, there was a report this morning from Mary Kay Cabot that says that the Browns are willing to offer Njoku over $10 million per season. So he seems to be their guy. I don't know what that means for Austin Hooper. I think that's a lot of bucks to throw it at him as well. I think Uzma sticks around, but I could see Uzma leaving because they eventually have to take care of Higgins and Chase. I don't know how much money you want to throw your boy Ingram on this list. Howard, those are sleepers, breakout candidates from 3-4 years ago. We'll see where they land. But anybody appealing here, I think Dalton Schultz is a guy that I would sell high too, because if he leaves Dallas, we only have 30 seconds or so, Tino, but if he leaves Dallas, you're going to see probably a downtick across the board. He really just fit in well with the Cowboys last year.
I feel like it makes sense. It makes sense for Schultz to get franchise tagged by Dallas. I know it'd be super high, but I don't think they're in a situation to not do that right now, because I don't think they can afford to lose him. He was great. Who stands out for me? Godspeed on Evan Ingram. Godspeed. That's all I'll say. That whoever wins the Evan Ingram sweepstakes, good for you, man. Congratulations. It won't be the Giants.
I still think OJ Howard has something to offer. I don't know. I haven't been with everybody else, the OJ Howard truthers of the world, but I still think he's pretty talented, right? We didn't get to see him playing behind Gronk and Cameron Braid. Who knows? All right, we'll break one more time, and we'll wrap up Mean Streets with some NHL picks and some shot props. Joe Pavelski talk here next on Mean Streets. Welcome back in. Got a couple NHL picks here. Tino, let's start with the shot props here for the NHL action. Just the 3 games here. Brad Marchand in the 2 games since returning to action due to a 6-game suspension. He is cleared in both of those games, 15 shots in those 2 games. He had 7 shots the other night. He had 9 shot attempts in his last game. He's actually cleared 2.5 in 4 straight games. You can get this at Caesars at -149. I got TJ Oshie on this list. He's been back. This is the theme of what these guys have done. They've all played 2 games since returning to action. You got Oshie, Bratt, and Marchand. So for Oshie, the 2 games, the 6 shots, played 19 minutes and 20 minutes. I know if you look at daily faceoff, he's penciled in on the 3rd line. He's still getting top power play. He can move up at any moment in the lineup. And because he's playing on the 3rd line, he gets some soft matchups. So 1.5 over at Caesars at -141. And then Jesper Bratt, 2.5 shots. He has 9 shots in his 2 games since returning to the lineup. He's cleared in 4 of his last 5 games. And the 1 game that he didn't clear is because he left early with an injury. My bonus is Michael Bunting. You know, I still like Marner. I still like William Nylander. I still like Jack Hughes. I still like Pasternak. I mean, these guys are the usual suspects. I got a couple plus money plays over at ftnbets.com, and this is one of them. Michael Bunting at +130. A bit of a long shot here. He's cleared in 3 of his past 4 games. He has at least 2 shots on goal in 9 straight games, and he's cleared in 5 of those 8. So he's been right there at that number. I also like SHARANGOVICH at +150 as well as a couple long shots there. Let's filter over to some picks. Am the artist checking in, loves the bonus picks. Yeah, appreciate that. Hopefully we can get that bonus one right. I like the Leafs despite what's going on with them in net. I think Washington also has their issues in goal. I'm not really feeling this Capitals team. The Leafs are playing good hockey. They're just allowing a lot of rubber. And I like the over at 6.5 at +100. 20 of their last 25 games, we've seen at least 6 goals. So it's been right there at that number. As for the Devils, the Canucks played last night, so we're going to get Jarro Halak. I don't know who the heck the Devils are riding with in goal. And I'll tell you what, it's nobody good. The Devils, we've seen at least 6 goals in 7 straight games from them and 8 of their past 9 as well. So they are also playing to a lot of overs. If you don't like that 6.5, you can get the alternate total, drop both down to 5.5, and that pays out +164 over at DraftKings. We have a whole lot more over at ftnbets.com. Use that promo code NHL or Meaney. Get yourself a little bit of a discount. We are going to finish February strong, hopefully. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.